Hey guys. People, can you hear me? Um, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Cool. Um, so last session I host was more structured. So I had time to make a presentation and so on. This one is more explanatory, but like let me share my screen and start with last session presentation, because there are some stuff there that um, it is good to share with you. So yeah, this was the last session presentation, but what I can, the points I want to talk to you here are those. So in this session, we are talking about um, developing to scale. And there's some stuffs in Bubble that we need to consider when developing an app to 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 scale, to have a lot of users and to be maintainable and performant along the time. And those three things, main things, are the main keys. Like, do not repeat yourself. So you should use reusables every time. What it means is, basically, if you need to do the same stuff twice, create a reusable. But when creating that reusable, don't do this like with a with the view of the specific application. Try to think broader and try to understand how that reusable can be reused, and also consider that reusable to be a standalone piece of software, of code. So the reusable should contain itself, should not refer. So let's do this in the following way. Let me duplicate this this page here, and I can type so you can also see these. So this is like main stuff. Use reusable. So the reusable should be standalone. What it means, it should not read, write from the outside. So no reads, write to URL parameters. No read of page name, that kind of stuff. So the reusable should always receive parameters and like return parameters. So let me take an example of a reusable in one app here. So for instance, let me choose this one, athlete card. So this is a very simple reusable. This is a card of an athlete. So it should show the picture, university, some like how much that athlete charged for a TikTok post or Instagram post or whatever, athletes' interests and so on. So this reusable element, it receives social data as this is a table. It receives a related brand. a flag telling the reusable if it needs to show a badge collective or not. So if it shows the collective, it will show this group. If it is false, it will not show this group. And another show favorite button, yes or not. So essentially, what it means is the reusable should receive everything from the outside that doesn't belong in that case to the athlete car. All right. So that's what I mean um, when I say no um, no read and write of page names and etc. So the other thing that we need to do is so here is like what related with reusables. That's what you need to do. Like should be standalone, not read write from outside. So not read write URL parameters and no read of page name and that kind of stuff. The other thing is you need to put everything together. So use Keystone events. That's something most of people doesn't use. Like when you are building, especially if you doesn't have a lot of experience in Bubble and also in other development platforms, you usually connect everything with a button. So if I click on this button, I do step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then someone asks you to like make something similar in a second button. So you create the second button and you go there and copy and paste the step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4, and step 5. The consequence of it is when you do this and you need to make a change, like you make a more complex app, a bigger app, harder to maintain, harder to scale. So please use Keystone events ever. So if I take another example here, I don't know, let me select another one. Let's see this one, campaign, the campaign one. So if I go to my workflows, I can see a lot of Keystone events. So I have a Keystone event for save, to send message, um, to sign the user app, to do a lot of stuff. So use those Keystone events and then attach the button with the Keystone event. And when developing a Keystone event, it is essentially the same rule. So it should be standalone. It should have a clear function, should perform a clear function. So you need to know these Keystone event do that specific function. So this is what it does. So you can call multiple Keystone events. You can call one Keystone event from inside the another. So you don't need to put everything together into the same Keystone event. Like when you create a Keystone event associated with a button, like let's see one example here. I know one button that calls a lot of Keystone events here. No, I don't know. So when you created Keystone event inside a button, so this is a button continue. So you can see it saves the information, and then I create a new stuff, and then I schedule a workflow, and then I trigger the second Keystone, and then I do more stuff. So I don't need to have like just one Keystone event per button because it's not reusable. So the Keystone event is a reusable workflow. All right. So it should follow essentially the same same rules, standalone, perform clear, um, clear function. Good thing is custom events nowadays receive parameters and also return values. So you can receive stuff, you can return stuff, you can use these as a like end step in your workflow. The third thing that you need to do is use database triggers. And this is like one thing no one uses. It is not not normal to see people using database triggers, but it's like game changing when developing in Bubble because because of Bubble way, we are not able to make a like normalized database modeling. And many times you need to repeat the same information in different fields. And like one of the reasons that I don't have a presentation in this right now is this morning I need to spend like 4 hours that I was expecting spending like creating the presentation, fixing a bug. And that bug was caused exactly because of the lack of database triggers. So we have two different tables, and we have the same data or the same field in these two different tables. But guess what? One developer decides to record one stuff in the field, and another developer decided to record another stuff in the fields of the other table. They should have the same information, but they hadn't. And in that case, it was you can imagine not relevant field. The field name was price. So what happened was in first table, the price was recording the unity price. And in the second table, we were recording the total price, like unity multiplied by the quantity. The end result was we charged our customers multiple times more than we should because lack of database triggers. So how I implement the database triggers. Let me show you, for instance, the database here. This is one app that we are overhauling, but let me look for a good example. Oh yeah, this one. So this is one table that I have, and those fields are set in a database trigger. So every field that comes from another table or like is a duplicate data should have the same data of the original table, or it's just for filtering purposes or stuff like this. I include a engine, a gear in the beginning, so every developer know she should not record. The developer should not record in this field. This field should not be written in the front end when you are creating something or when you are changing something, because this is done in the database trigger. All right. And these three tables are, there is a very good example for this exercise related with database triggers. So what we have in this app is this app makes integrates with Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter to take statics of these social platforms and recommends student athletes to brands. And the original developers, they created one table for each platform. So they created one table for Instagram, another table for TikTok, and another table for Twitter. So when I enter in the app, each of these tables has its own name. So for instance, when you go to, let's say, followers, subscribers, the original name was followers to Instagram, followers to TikTok, and subscribers to Twitter. Like avatar URL, you have profile image in one, avatar URL in the other one, and avatar picture in the third. So what we need to do was like standardize all the naming, and then I create one single table, putting everything together. But it is a legacy system, so there are a lot of workflows creating data in those three tables. How to solve this using database trigger. So if we go to the backend of this app, you can see that we have a lot of triggers, all right? So many different triggers. One tip here is when you name your, if you name your database trigger like with a name only, it will show up like this. It is really hard to read, I think. So one tip is name these weird to show up pretty. So the name of this database trigger includes this lot of dashes. And these dashes are here just because when you look this, it looks nice. So you know that this is a database trigger that triggers when challenge entry updates. I don't know if you are familiar with database trigger, but in a database trigger, you have a before change object and a now object, and you can decide when it happens. So you can use the only when using those two different objects. This object contains all the fields in the database before the change, and this one contains all the fields in the database after the change. And the name now is very interesting because it means something. It means that the trigger runs after the change. So in fact, what happens is you do a change in the database, and after the change, you run the database trigger. So the record was already changed when the database trigger is running, all right? But yeah, what matter is create database triggers to duplicate your data, all right? So use a lot of database triggers every time you need to duplicate data, spread data over your database, ensure correct correlations between tables and all that kind of stuff. And the third thing is create stuff between front and back end. So we are used to talk in back end and front end. So what is back end? Everything that is in the back end workflow, right? What is front end? Everything else. But we have more than front end and back end in Bubble. In fact, we don't have, but we should have, and we can implement it more than this. Like in the backend, you should run everything that runs asynchronous, everything that runs in the database, everything that is related with making database data consistency, like database triggers, everything that is recursive, and nothing more. So just to run, and everything that you need to prep process. Like many times you need to run batch tasks or recursive tasks or prep processing something, do this in the back end. In the very front end, what I mean front end, I mean like this is for me the front end. So we have here a front end, we have graphical elements, all right? So in the front end, you should have the graphic elements. And I'd say that's it. So between the very front end and the back end, what you should do is two different levels. So one level is the variable levels, the level where you um, defines all the variables of your page. So what I do in that level is I create a pop-up variables, and then this is an ugly one. Let me find one that is much prettier. I don't know where I can have one of these. Let me check maybe in the campaign. Let me see if I have one that is more pretty to show you. No, let's go back to that one. It was not the best one, but it's fine. So the goal of the variable pop is keep all your do searches in just one place. So instead of having do searches spread over your app, what you need to do is create this stuff. So for instance, I want to know, choose another one. What is the service that I should add? So there is a variable to do this. Let me find one that is fill it. Yeah, that one, for instance. Past work to add. So the idea here is I make all my searches in those groups. So I create groups inside these. For instance, I have this one is very, very, very good example. So besides not doing searches inside my front end, like inside my groups and repeating groups, I also don't use the current user. So instead of using the current user, I create a group. It calls var user. The type is user, and it receives, like, this is a reusable. So that reusable receives the user from the outside. It defaults to the current user. So if I run without specifying the user, it will run as the current user, the logged in user. But I can also run as another user. The only thing that I need to do is I send another user here, and all the screen will show as I'm running as another user. And it's very useful for admin purposes. So yeah, first level of that stuff that is not front end, not back end. These pop up of variables. So include everything that you need here, all the assertions, all conditionals. Name it properly, like including names, like past stuff. And use it inside your code. So when you are here in the code, for instance, and you have let me look for something that has a conditional. So here we have two conditionals, all right? So this one, var show private yes, no, is no. So we use these in the conditionals. So instead of doing a search to see if the user is an admin and allows me to show private data or not, I use this. So it means that if a business rule change, if I need to show the private data for a new role, for instance, I create a new role in the system that is not like app admin. It is now like customer admin, and the customer admin needs to be allowed to see private data in that reusable. So with regular development, what I need to do is go over every piece of code, every group, every stuff, and change my do a search. And do a search and check if current user role is new one, and include one more conditional. the way we do here, it is totally different. So I have this var show private, yes, no. So what I need to do, I need to go to the pop-up variables, look for my var show private. So I type here var show private, and that's it. So it is yes if my user is current user, or if my user role, the current user role is app admin, or if the current user role is developer, or and the profile show only public data is no. And I have a conditional here in this that says that if the role is brand, it is no. So if I need to change this, I just change here. And as you can see, I have like profile, that is my reusable, show only public data. It's an external parameter. So although I have this variable internally, I also can control these by outside. So every time, like if this profile reusable is used to show, to create a public profile view as well. So when doing this, oh, amazing. So when this profile is used in the, let me show you the public profile page too. So for instance, this is the public profile page. Public profile page shows athlete data for everyone. So I call my profile reusable here, and then I pass here show only public data if the user is not the current user. It sends yes. So only public data is shown. If the user is the current user, it will send no. So it will show the non-public data, all right? And here is how it receives the information, show only public data. So that is the first step of this middle term layer. The second part is using no front-end reusables. And what does it mean? Like, it means that you will create a reusable that has no graphical elements. So this is my reusable. I have no group. I have no repeating group, no pop-up, nothing. Like, it is totally empty. There is nothing here. The only thing that it have is custom events. This is an email workflows. So I have custom events that are used to send emails to my customers. And everything that is related with an email in my app, I should put here. And every time I need to send an email to someone, I just take that reusable, put in my page, and then I call a custom event from a reusable. I don't know if you are aware, but you can do this. Like, if you go to the custom event, you have a trigger a custom event from a reusable element. So if I have a reusable element inside this page or inside this reusable, I can call it. So every time I need to send an email, I put this reusable inside my page, and I trigger a custom event from a reusable element, and I call, I don't know, send admin invite email, and it will send this email to the admin. So when I receive a request for, hey, please change the text in the email, or let's also include another destination in the email or something like this. If it is related with email, I just came to my email workflow because everything related with email is there. and I look for what email needs to be changed, and the change is here. And it will change the behavior of the system in every place where that email is sent. So this is like, but everything together, all right? Everything is together in one reusable, and it is also use no front end reusable. This is a no front end reusable. I couldn't call it front end. There is no graphic elements. There is nothing in front of anyone showing. So that's why I call no front end reusables. It only contains custom workflows. Another one that is very interesting is this every page engine. So I can here I have one to notify athletes, and I have one when page is loaded. The page is loaded is very interesting because usually people has for every page one workflow with pages loaded that will kick off the user if it's not logged in, or kick off the user from the admin page if it's not an admin, or like redirect the user to somewhere else if he doesn't have the proper permissions. um, by doing this, you put everything in just one place, and you control that initial flow of your app in just one place. Let me check if I can access another app here. And it's an app of a client that I not always have access to it. Yeah, I have access. So let me show you one example of a really hard usage of this feature. Just a few seconds, so the app loads. So I have one, like the task here was develop develop a something like a Calendly. So a calendar feature with a lot of requirements. So let me open it. And the way I did it was it was essentially created only with this approach. So we have these reusable, that is the appointment engine. There is no front end here. The only stuff that we have is the pop-up variables. You can see that this pop-up is way better than the previous one, like much better formatted. We have here where the data is, here the output variables, and this is like the reusable. So the reusable is well identified with arrows indicated what is inputs and what fields, what are outputs of the reusable. And the way it works is I receive like the department of, the context here is the company interview people to hire them as a salesman. So the interviewer has a department. Um, they are located in specific time zone, and the candidate can select the date and time and like choose a spot to make the interview. So I receive the department, the time zone of the candidate, or like the candidate, the date that the candidate selected. We have one output that is next day. So the reusable itself says tells to the page what are the next days. So it's a list of dates. It provides a list of dates with next days. So the user select the date and inform to the reusable what was the selected date, and then the reusable says like what is the possible available slots and so on. So it works like this. And if you see, it doesn't have almost any workflows as well. So this is a massive use of that approach, of like variables. if you look for the variables here, like you can see that you have the searches, but then the searches are connected with another variables. So it is a known front-end reusable. Those are like the three stuff that I believe if you follow these three main concepts, you'll be able to design a scalable product. Before this, the only other stuff that you need to guarantee is that you have a well-designed database. So please design your database always in Lucidchart or something, like create all the relationships, make that diagram, understand that diagram, share the diagram with every developer, explain the main concepts for your customer so the customer has an idea of what is possible, what is not possible, like what are the main constraints of the app, and keep it updated, which is not an easy task. And the way I do to make it updated, for instance, is every time I will delete a field, I just mark it in red and like this. So I know that field was deleted in the database or will be deleted in the database. And everyone approves it before deleting. And when it's deleted in the database and approved by everyone, then I can remove it from the Lucidchart. The other stuff is create, like use these. This is like to mark that the table is updated against what we have in Bubble. So keep your database model small, consistent, and effective. Follow these three pillars. Do not repeat yourself. Use reusables. Put everything together using custom events, database triggers, and no front-end reusables. And create stuff between the front end and the back end. And please do not do a search in a group, in a repeating group, in a text, anywhere in your front end. All do a searches you should do in a pop-up variable just in one place. And if you have a repeating group and you need to do a searches inside that repeating group, if it is such a simple structure, that's fine. You do a search in any place. But if it is a repeating group with a lot of content inside it, please create a small group, call it variables, make a alter content like I forgot it, like what's the name? Align to parent. Make an align to parent alter group, include a variable group there in the left corner or whatever, and then create your group inside this align to parent. So your variable group will not interfere in your design, and you have everything inside this variable group named as var. So you know where all the searches are, and you can easily come here and identify what is it. It is also valid for, let me show you another one here. I believe it's the athlete con. Maybe athlete brand match. Not sure about it. No, it's also valid for responsiveness, right? So instead of including inside the elements like page width and stuff like this, use a mode like let me. I believe the profile one has a mode. Not sure. Um, but use a mode. Mobile design, no. So the way it is implemented is inside the, for instance, inside the PP page, the public profile. What I have is I call my profile, and here in the mobile design, I have my conditional. Like if the current page width is smaller than 992, it is set to yes, and it will run in the mobile design. If it's greater than, it will run in the desktop design. This way, you can like reuse your reusable much more times, and it's way better. So I believe that's what I had to share with you, and we'll be happy if anyone has questions. And so any questions you have, please. Unfortunately, we have no way, I have no way to open the camera or audio for other people. Oh, I see two questions here. How do you avoid bubble crashes when too many nested events are triggered? Good question, Gio. You need to take care about it, and you need to like design properly, not like include a lot of stuff there. Um, and it always depends of the bubble subscription plan. So in the other application, in this application that I show you here, this one that has a lot of stuff here, they run in the dedicated plan. It is amazing. The guys pay like 4,000 and a half. It is a company that is making money. Their revenue is $40 million per year. So 4,000 and a half is not expensive at all. And it runs pretty well. But the other apps that I work are in the legacy plan, and sometimes we have that issue if we don't plan properly how those events are triggered. The second question is how do you do pagination when repeating group is inside reusable variable pop-up? All right, I do not like many of the all cases that I show here, and every time I do these, I in the pop-up I create show all elements. The apps that I'm use it to work doesn't have like thousands of elements in the list. So that's why I'm doing this for now. But the way I would do is implement the pagination separately. So use like items until, and then use another variable for the page, and then control that pagination in that way, like implement manually this pagination. Do you ever use HTML elements instead of repeating groups, or coolest uses of HTML elements you have found? All right. This question is from Taz. So Taz, I'm a developer from code. So I coded for 15 years or more. I would prefer to use HTML elements, CSS, CSS, JS, and everything. But it is not only a performance decision, or not only a technical decision. We also need to consider the company team. So in the companies I worked in the last 5 years, most of the team have not IT background. not programming background. So I worked with people that are like, I don't know, constructors, um, designers, or physiotherapists, or uh, many different professions. Um, and they are not used to code. So if I include a piece of code in the app, only myself will be able to to provide maintenance. So I try to use Bubble native as much as I can, because like the team is more experienced in Bubble. Um, can you come back to the parameter emoji on the data field? For sure. Let's go back there. I don't know where it was here. Yeah, okay. They're here to say this is used in the backend trigger and shouldn't be updated. Yeah, exactly. This is exactly this, Benoit. So I include this parameter to show that developer should not update it or should not write into these because they came from the database trigger. I also use many others, like many others, as a like naming convention. So um, this is one I use it to use, like if it has a strong privacy rule applied. So usually I include this one. You could see the ladybug. I also have this table that calls debug and has a ladybug, just a few texts like to write anything that I want to write that came from the backend. But the ladybug, I also use it many times when it's related with testing or debugging. What is your take on having the variable group as a reusable? I believe Kelly does that. Oh, that's good. Good to know, Benoit. Um, it's a good idea. Actually, Kelly has very, very good ideas, and many ideas that I have, she also have, and we do the same way without never being talked to before. But yeah, it might be a good idea to have the pop-up um, variable as a reusable with the main stuff that we always have. Really good idea. With front-end reusable, does it mean that you try to extract every custom event from your front end into dedicated reusables? Um, I would say so. Not like it doesn't worth it's just one reusable per one custom event. So I wouldn't say all, but if it is related, like when I have email, I will have a reusable for email. Um, like it makes sense to have like the main entities, like um, things that you do with the user table or with your main entities. Main table is also in one dedicated reusable. How do you ensure backend API calls are completed successfully? I have a problem with big requests not always being sent. For example, a Twilio SMS API call to 100 more user and not everyone getting the SMS. All right, Jordan. So Bubble doesn't, if you are running in a list, Bubble doesn't handle it pretty well. So you should avoid every run in a list. So two stuffs that you should always avoid: running a list, never run in list, because you don't have control about what run it and what didn't run. So you should always run recursive events. If you can create a control table, record in this control table every time you run. So record each email at each user that you sent the SMS. If the system broke in the middle, you have the track about which users you send the SMS, which you didn't send, but always do it as a recursive event. And when creating the recursive events, like Bubble has a particularity that is, I don't know if this app is pretty big. So Bubble has a stuff. I will not be able to find one good example, but Bubble runs async all steps. So when you call, let me look for any one that calls itself again. There is one that I didn't develop, but I know because I was debugging today. So this one calls itself again, right? So it's a recursive workflow. If you look for this, it calls this trigger, this custom event, and then it calls itself again. But you don't have any condition here ensuring that this step happens after the step one. So what happens in this case is Bubble trigger both of them in the same time. So if I call this API workflow with 100 of, with a list of 100 to run, Bubble will try to run all of them in the same time. So this is not the perfect way. So you could include here a second or something. So you give some time to the server breathe. But you also can include like a result of step one. If you include the result of step one anywhere here, it will wait until the step one finishes and then it will trigger again. So it also avoids your app to broke. And I told you there are two things that you should always avoid. The second one is advanced filter. Never use an advanced filter, only in very specific cases, and keep track of it and remove it as soon as possible. Because like when you include one advanced filter in your search, it runs like 100 times slower. It is really a thing to avoid. If you don't have access to the field to be used in the search, create it in your database, create a database trigger, ensuring that this field will be filled with the proper information, and then use it directly into the constraints. Another question from Taz is, have you ever tried cold emailing or PMing SMBs to try to get much higher hourly rates? Do you mean for work? Yeah, actually, my first job abroad, I'm based in Brazil. My first job abroad was in Australia, and I got it with cold email. It was a very simple one, 2 lines saying that I was a Brazilian developer with 15 years in experience coding, learned Bubble 1 year and a half ago in that time, and was available for freelancing. And I email for 35 major agencies in Bubble agency list. 7 of them answer me. I made 3 or 4 interviews, and one of them hired me. It was higher hourly rate, but like that time I didn't work with Bubble. So my first job in Bubble I got this way, but I didn't for higher hourly rate. I never did it. Maybe it's a good idea, like code emailing with some of that stuff might work. Any we still have 2 minutes. Anyone else has any question? In any case, you have my phone number here, email as well. So feel free to send me email or WhatsApp. WhatsApp is much better because my email. Oh, if I am in Twitter, yeah, Jordan. Um, I am, but I never use it. So it's not, I'm an old guy. Twitter is something like very confusing to me. And as I said, I'm in Brazil. I don't know if Twitter is operating here. I know that like um, Elon and the Brazilian government were like fighting for it. I don't know if we still have Twitter. Um, but yeah, I'm in LinkedIn and I can put my LinkedIn here. It's also a let me create a new new one. So my LinkedIn is https LinkedIn and Ricardo Alves /PM. So this is my LinkedIn. If you want to reach me out there, please feel free as well. All right. I believe it's time. 4 p.m. my time zone, 3 p.m. EST. Thank you everyone for attending. Um, please feel free to reach me out if you need something, and see you soon. Bye bye.